So guys, this is not even my theory on what could be coming next. We have actual data directly from the Dragonflight beta that has been accumulating for a few weeks now. There is legit an actual portal to the Emerald Dream on the Dragon Isles. There are Night Elven Shamans that are against the Green Dragons that surprisingly have the Burning of Teldrassil Scar, which could indicate that a faction of Night Elves decided that the Loon and the Green Dragons are lame and that they could and should worship someone else. When you combine this with the other hints and possible patches for Dragonflight, there is some heavy foreshadowing that finally we may be going into the Emerald Dream and that some of the Night Elves may be rebelling. So what is all this new information? If you're looking for cheap games at amazing prices, check out this video sponsor, Gamivo. You can get everything from games to software, gift cards, and even get World of Warcraft Game Time and Dragonflight. You can get an even bigger discount with my code DORON, so make sure to click the link in the description below. So the Emerald Dream has been one of the most confusing aspects of Warcraft lore for the longest time, really. Originally, it was said to be the blueprint for the nature of Azeroth, then a second reality, then a place where the servants of nature generate. But all of that changed with the introduction of Ardenweald and Shadowlands, which made the entire thing even more confusing. Emerald Dream was actually intended to be a playable zone years ago, but then nothing came to pass. However, it has been clear that Blizzard never actually abandoned this idea. We have gone into the Emerald Nightmare, which is the corrupted version of it. We even briefly teleported to the actual Emerald Dream in Legion. However, now we might finally be going into the real deal, and let me just explain why. So, as you may be aware, the Dragon Isles are mainly divided by the dragon aspects, and there is a place that is the home to the Green Dragonflight, and that is the Oneran Plains. The place is named after the wild god eagle spirit Onera. As you may also be aware, Blizzard immediately promised that the Green Dragonflight is going to be incredibly relevant, in particular when compared to the others, and so far with what we have actually data mined, they have completely delivered on that promise. Spoiler alert, we have learned that Malfurion will sacrifice himself to resurrect Ysera, meaning that actual dragon aspect will return, and that is her artwork on the official Dragonflight art. There is Meritra, her daughter, Tyrande will be involved in the entire storyline, and Night Elves are said to be very important players in the new expansion. Now, I'm not going to spoil the entire questline, but here is a very quick summary so that you can understand what is actually going on. At the moment, as the expansion is about to start, a lot of these stories are open-ended, so they can go either way. We don't really know what are the actual goals, but as you may be aware, the dragon aspects were empowered by the Titans, and the proto-dragons became dragons. However, quite a few of these proto-dragons, as we have recently learned, didn't really like this concept. Before, they used elemental magic, and they actually saw the Titan power as something that tainted them, not that elevated them to a higher being, as is the usual narrative, and they have been fighting the aspects ever since. Now, the main enemies that we'll be fighting are a group called Primalists, which are once again bringing back the sentiment, and surprisingly enough, on multiple occasions, there are followers of theirs that are Night Elven Shamans. Yes, Night Elven Shamans. Now, long story short, but there are a few Centaur clans on the Dragon Isles. One of them are really close to the Green Dragonflight. A bunch of stuff happens, but suddenly a Night Elven Shaman captures Onera, the wild god of the zone that is the heart of the zone, and she brews a massive storm. We learn that this storm is intended to break this massive green dome that is over the zone. Now, this dome is protecting the main place of operations of the remnants of the Green Dragonflight, and lo and behold, inside this zone there is a direct portal into the Emerald Dream. Yes, an actual portal. Now, this Night Elven Shaman makes her intentions incredibly clear, so these are not just my speculations, hints, or thoughts. She says things like, "You have accomplished nothing. Once I've dealt with you, nothing will stand between us and the dream." And she says the dream must be ours. So, yes, as you may imagine, she, as one of the Primalists, plans to invade, access, and somehow either corrupt or twist the dream to her purpose. And yeah, this now brings us into crazy territory for speculations and what could possibly happen in the very near future. Let us first examine something that not many people actually notice that is incredibly interesting. Who is this Night Elven Shaman, and why is she even a Night Elven Shaman in the first place? So, as you can visually see with her face, she has the mark that was added after the destruction of Teldrassil, which is something akin to a burn wound, which indicates that she survived the destruction of Teldrassil. I mean, if you go into the customization options when you create a Night Elf, this burn mark is literally called Teldrassil. Now, on the other hand, Night Elves have always been druids. They have always been the worshippers of Elune. They have always been close to the green dragonflight, but they have never been shamans or really dabbled with the elements. This makes sense as they might have now gone against the green dragons and they no longer trust in the tradition. Now, let us put 2 and 2 together and realize that a shaman dabbles in elemental magic, which the Primalists and the Proto-Dragons use. She survived Teldrassil, so could this be a huge hint that she is actually a recent convert and that not all Night Elves are going on with Tyrande and her crazy let's just rebuild theory and continue just blindly following Elune even though she uses us as cannon fodder? Maybe some of them realized that Elune pulled a fast one over them when she sacrificed their souls to help her sister in Ardenweald, despite them worshipping her for thousands and thousands of years. Maybe that is why they want to access the Emerald Dream, which I gotta say is barely even a hint, as why else would Blizzard start introducing Night Elven Shamans after all this time? Because keep in mind, she's not actually the only Night Elven Shaman we have come across all over the Dragon Isles. I gotta say, this is a really interesting turn of events, as right now we don't actually discover her goals and we don't really know what the full-scale plan is, what they're aiming for long-term. We don't really even know who is behind those Primalists and what is the actual goal, but it is incredibly evident that things are yet to be revealed and that the first basic questing in the Dragonflight is only going to hint at the storyline, but it won't really reveal what it will be about. That is pretty much the entire premise of Dragonflight, a regular adventure with some enemies that only later will evolve into the big bad guy that is right now behind the scenes. Now, that brings us to an incredibly interesting point, and that is the fact that yes, there's an actual portal to the Emerald Dream right here. Honestly, not at all surprising. I mean, these are the Dragon Isles, the home to Ysera and the Green Dragonflight. However, this is without a doubt a hint that this might just be an entire patch of content in the near future. It is almost certain that this expansion is not going to just be Dragon Isles based, as we are set to discover the entire place pretty much as soon as the expansion is out, so there is not all that much that is going to be left to do on this continent. Now, if you followed the news by now, we have data mined a bunch of information that one of the patches, 10.1 in particular, could be related to underground activities, and it is entirely possible that we could be going into the Emerald Dream more than likely as an entire patch. There is an incredible connection with Ardenweald and the Emerald Dream. Apparently, Malfurion is sacrificing himself to return Ysera. The Night Elves are in desperate need of some story progression, so I think all of this could entirely relate to us finally going into the Emerald Dream. This could without a doubt be something akin to Argus back in Legion when we had an entire zone or one of the zones in BFA, as this would essentially be Ardenweald 2.0 and it could just totally work out. With the Primalists trying to access it and more than likely this rogue faction of Night Elves, this could without a doubt turn to be an incredibly interesting turn of events. We may see a rebellion or the Night Elves splitting, and this might even be an introduction to Night Elven Shamans. Maybe a lot of Chang follow the Primalists and realize that this is not the way, so they return to Tyrande. This really would go along with the plan that Blizzard has to make all the classes playable for all the races. However, I gotta say, these are some really interesting story developments. Thank you for watching. Check out what would Eldar look like if it came back to the ground by clicking on the screen, and check out Donuts Academy for videos on real world history. See you next time.